Rene Robert was the missing ingredient the Buffalo Sabres needed to ignite the NHL's most colorful and productive line in the 1970s. But unlike his star-studded linemates, Robert was not a prized number 1 draft pick. In fact, he was essentially a castoff, plucked from obscurity by a coach who had once discarded him. Robert seized on the opportunity with the Sabres and quickly became a legend. He was the first Sabre ever to reach the 100-point plateau, and he scored some of the most dramatic goals in franchise history. This is the story of the fast-skating, hard-shooting Sabres icon Rene Robert and his unlikely climb to hockey immortality.
By Rick Kehoe. 3-2 with 1:30 to go. And they're going to try everything in the house. You can count on it. Here he comes. Rene Robert trying to slip right between our defense. Score!
Rene Robert had an outstanding 3-year junior career playing for the Trois-Rivières Leafs. In 1967-68, he set a QJHL mark with 69 goals in just 49 games, and that's a record that stood for 3 years before being shattered by Guy Lafleur. Rene was named a first-team All-Star center. Coincidentally, at left wing was future Sabre Rick Martin, then playing for the Thetford Mines. Robert was property of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who sent him to the CHL's Tulsa Oilers. Thus began a 4-year odyssey that saw Robert score at a high level, but still get bounced around to minor league outposts in Phoenix, Vancouver, Rochester, and Tulsa twice. He also had an unsuccessful 5-game NHL tryout with Toronto in 1971. Rene's 1971 offseason saw even more movement, if only on paper. Former Maple Leafs coach Punch Imlach was now the GM of the second-year Buffalo Sabres, and he always liked Rene. So, when the Leafs left Rene exposed in a 1971 intra-league draft, Imlach pounced, and Robert was a Sabre. For an hour or so. Imlach loved to work the intra-league draft and was known for his wheeling and dealing. But he outsmarted himself when, after choosing Robert, he drafted Hugh Harris and Dick Duff and left Robert exposed, thinking no team would have any interest in him. But Penguins coach and ex-Leaf Red Kelly also remembered Rene and added him to the roster of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Although Rene preferred to play center, he got off to a strong start playing right wing in the Steel City.
Up for Ken Schenkel along the boards. Right in front to Robert. Scores!
I think that goal is going to go to Roberto, or hit or skate, I think, in front of Johnston and changed directions, went between his legs. Pittsburgh tied it up on the power.
Robert's Penguins career was sidetracked on November 28, 1971, when he suffered a severe back injury in a collision with Montreal's Régent Houle. In fact, Robert was partially paralyzed for 3 days. When Robert returned to the Penguins lineup, he quickly fell out of favor with Kelly and eventually punched his way out of Pittsburgh.
Red Kelly was coaching and wouldn't put me back in the lineup. And make a long story short, we practicing one day and we're coming one-on-one on Kelly, and I deked him and he grabbed my arm, so I punched him.
You can just say you punched the coach.
Yeah.
Okay,
and that was my last of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
With Robert's career in doubt, the relentless Punch Imlach again entered the scene and acquired Rene in exchange for aging veteran Eddie Shack in what turned out to be one of the most lopsided deals of the decade.
I guess there's a destiny in life, and Imlach was always after me, so he got me back in Buffalo. And when I came to Buffalo, I had never played wing, and he said...
now you were traded, by the way, for...
Eddie Shack, the entertainer, yeah. So I came to Buffalo, and he said, we're going to play you on the right side with Perreault and Martin. And I said, well, I really don't know what to do. And he says, just be a garbage collector.
Robert scored 6 goals in 12 games with the Sabres and set the stage for a magical, decade-long run for Buffalo. In the 1972 training camp, Sabres coach Joe Crozier placed Robert with spectacular center Gilbert Perreault and prolific left wing Richard Martin on a line dubbed the French Connection. Perreault was the star with his penchant for end-to-end rushes. Martin was the unrelenting goal scorer. But Robert was the piece that made the trio tick, a physical, do-it-all winger who made his line mates better. The French Connection was the talk of the NHL in the 72-73 season.
Well, it came all from training camp, I guess. We left training camp in pretty good shape, and we had to jump on the other teams, and I think that was the main key for our success so far.
Just a year removed from being on the cusp of the NHL scrap heap, Robert was named to the midseason All-Star team and scored a goal with his patented blistering slapshot. The Sabres needed a win over the St. Louis Blues in their final game of the regular season to earn their first ever playoff berth, but they'd be facing the powerful Montreal Canadiens in round 1. The Sabres lost the first 3 games of the series, but won Game 4 on home ice to send the series back to the Montreal Forum for Game 5. Robert scored early in the game and then added the overtime game winner to cut the Habs series lead to 3-2.
At the 9-minute mark of overtime, Martin and Perreault sent Robert in alone on Ken Dryden, and he beat the Canadiens goalie with a shot that had them celebrating to the wee small hours back in Buffalo.
The series ended with the Canadiens' victory in Game 6, despite this goal by Robert. But it was the incredible reaction of Sabres fans as time ran out, a deafening chant of "Thank you, Sabres," that would remain as Robert's fondest on-ice memory. After taking a step back in 1973-74, the Sabres and the French Connection hit their stride in 1974-75. Rick Martin scored 51 goals, and Robert became the first player in franchise history to post 100 points in a season, as the young Sabres racked up 113 points and won the Adams Division crown. And the French Connection had now reached iconic status in Buffalo and throughout the NHL. And no one appreciated the French Connection and Robert's impact on the trio more than Buffalo coach Floyd Smith.
Robert is probably the most all-around talented one of the three. Rene's an excellent skater. He possesses a great shot. He handles the puck well. He's aggressive. He does everything real well. He just fits in, and the three of them just happen to complement one another. It's a pleasure to have them there. They're the greatest kids in the world. You never have any problems with them. All they want to do is play hockey. They're fun-loving kids having a great time setting this league in this year. That's about the size of it.
Buffalo made quick work of the Chicago Blackhawks in round 1 of the playoffs and moved to round 2 in a rematch with the Montreal Canadiens. With the series knotted at 2-2, Robert was once again an overtime hero. He helped set up a goal by Craig Ramsey to tie the game, and then won Game 5 with a lightning-quick shot in overtime. The Sabres took Game 6 in Montreal and were on their way to the Stanley Cup Finals to face the defending Stanley Cup champion, Philadelphia Flyers. And it was Robert who ended one of the most unique games in NHL history on May 20, 1975, Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final, forever known as the Fog Game. An 82-degree day in Buffalo created a thick layer of fog along the ice surface inside the odd, decreasing the visibility and forcing frequent stoppages throughout the contest. With 1:31 remaining in the overtime period, Robert emerged from the fog to cut the Flyers' series lead to 2-1.
Capté par Martin. De Martin à Perreault, aussitôt suivi par McLeish. La longue passe, prise par Robert. Il compte! Rene Robert!
The hustling Sabres would eventually lose in 6 games, but appeared to be poised to be one of the NHL's premier teams for the foreseeable future. Robert and the French Connection would continue to prosper throughout the decade, with Robert, who also manned the point on the power play, averaging 34 goals per season. Making Robert's accomplishments even more impressive is that he was often tightly covered by some of the NHL's premier defensive left wings, especially Montreal's Bob Gainey, and Boston's Don Marcotte. The French Connection era officially ended on October 5, 1979, when Robert was traded to the Colorado Rockies in exchange for defenseman John Van Boxmeer. With this struggling franchise, Robert proved his worth with 28 goals in 79-80. It was named team captain. In Denver, Rene was one of Coach Don Cherry's favorite players. After I got Robert and looked at some of the guys he had to work with, I felt sorry for the guy. He even blocked shots, threw his weight around, and fought. He even played through a broken thumb, a separated shoulder, and pulled groin. Considering our collection of players, I wouldn't have blamed Robert if he had just thrown in the towel, but he just wouldn't quit. For the legacy of Rene Robert, this brief stint in Denver illustrates his strong character. He was known as a flashy player throughout his career, but in fact, hard work, mental toughness, and leadership would be Robert's enduring trademarks. Robert's career came full circle when a trade took him back to the Toronto Maple Leafs and Punch Imlach midway through the 80-81 season. He finished out his NHL career by playing 55 games with the Leafs in 81-82, scoring 13 goals and 37 points. Over his 12-year NHL career, Robert recorded 8 20-goal seasons and 2 40-goal years. His career statistics include 306 goals, 437 assists, and 743 points in 794 regular and postseason games. On November 15, 1995, Robert and Martin had their numbers retired by the Sabres in an emotional ceremony at the Odd. Rene's number 14 now hangs in the rafters alongside Perreault's number 11 and Martin's number 7. Robert remained an important part of the Buffalo community, serving as an ambassador for the team. He was once the president of the NHL Alumni and enjoyed an enduring relationship with Sabres fans. On February 20, 2011, the French Connection helped welcome Terry Pegula as owner of the Sabres. It would mark the last time the French Connection were ever together, as Martin tragically died just 3 weeks later. In a horrible sequence of events, Robert had just lost an older brother to a heart attack on the morning Martin passed away. In 2012, Robert and the French Connection were immortalized with a statue in Alumni Plaza at the KeyBank Center.
Up ahead for Perreault. Perreault coming to center. Dumps it off the boards in the corner. Robert going after it. He scores!
This is really the pinnacle of a career.
On June 17, 2021, the hockey world was stunned to hear that Robert had suffered a major heart attack and was on life support. Rene Robert passed away 5 days later on June 22, 2021, at the age of 72.
We are back with the scene outside KeyBank Center today, a small memorial at the French Connection statue paying tribute to Sabres great Rene Robert.
On opening night of the 2021 season, the Buffalo Sabres paid tribute to Rene Robert in a stirring pregame ceremony. Rene Robert was a man who made the most of the opportunity afforded him 50 years ago and turned that into a lifelong legacy as one of the most important members of the Buffalo Sabres family.
Gil, Rick, you can now rest. You don't have to carry me anymore, but thank you. It felt good to be carried by 2 tremendous hockey players. Last but not least, to the greatest fans in the world. Thank you.
The Pro Hockey Alumni is dedicated to promoting and celebrating the legends who made the game great. Here are 2 more videos created for those who love the history of the game.